4-0 start in ACC play for Duke basketball and a top 25 victory at that with the Blue Devils' 7-point win over SMU. Let's talk about it.
Hi, everybody. Dick Vitale. Hey, make sure you listen, man, to Locked On Blue Devils with JJ Jackson. He's awesome, baby.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is JJ Jackson. It's so great to have you here with us today on this Tuesday, January 13th, 2026. Locked On Blue Devils is your one-stop shop where we discuss everything going on inside the life of Duke athletics. On today's show, we'll highlight once again this Duke basketball victory over SMU as the Blue Devils improved to 4-0 in conference play. They are 15-1 overall on the season. We'll have this conversation with our guy Kevin Connelly from Ball Durham, who joins us on the program. Duke traveling out to California for the week. They'll take on Cal tomorrow and then a Saturday night showdown against Stanford. So much to talk about. And of course, we'll dive into this SMU game a little bit further here today. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked On Blue Devils for free, wherever it is that you get your podcast. Leave us a 5-star rating and written review. Take a moment, if you will, to watch our show each and every day on YouTube. Like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Be sure to follow us on X at LO_Blue Devils, and I'm there as well, at _JJ_Jackson_. Be sure to check out Locked On Blue Devils on Instagram and TikTok. So, without further ado, Kevin Connelly's hanging out with us here today. Kev, glad to have another win to break down here with you for Duke basketball. This one, yet another top 25 victory for Duke, albeit without SMU's leading scorer. But again, winning conversations, much better than the opposite.
Well, JJ, thanks for having me. And listen, I've said it going back to the non-conference schedule where the full 40 minutes don't always look great, but somehow when there's zeros on the clock and you look up at the scoreboard, the team has more points than the other team. Now, granted, that didn't happen against Texas Tech, which kind of unfolded in a similar fashion to a lot of these other games. But this was one of those games where, again, it didn't look pretty for a large portion of those 40 minutes. But you look up at the end of the game, and Duke has more points than SMU, and it counts as a win.
A lot of things to take away from this game from the Duke perspective. And again, a lot of positives, some negatives that we'll dive into. Right out of the gates, though, we look at Duke finding themselves in a deficit, in a hole, 11 straight points from SMU to open the game up. It was 11-0. It was 13-3 SMU before Duke really got into a rhythm offensively, started to climb back, and their defense really set the tone. Duke's starting lineup changed in this one, initially going with Malik Brown and Dame Sarr, and for whatever reason, that combination just didn't work against SMU.
Yeah, I understand the Dame Sarr portion of it, of putting him in the starting lineup in replace of Cayden Boozer. I mean, Dame played well against Louisville, made a couple of shots, but was more impressive with his defense and his length overall, where it was like, hey, maybe they have something here in Dame Sarr, and he's starting to figure things out, even though his offensive game remains up and down. I'm going to be honest, I did not understand starting Malik Brown. And I know Jon Scheyer, I watched the press conference and I've read the quotes and I even wrote a story on it. I still don't get that. And let's be honest, call a spade here. It completely backfired on him. Like, this change in the starting lineup completely backfired on Jon Scheyer when you mentioned you're down 11-0 and you're down 13-3 right out of the chute, especially against a team that doesn't have their best player available to them. So, the starting lineup backfired. And, I mean, it even backfired a little bit more, JJ, when as the game unfolds and two of your best players in this game were two guys who you pulled from the starting lineup in Cayden Boozer and Pat Ngongba, with Cayden going for 12 and Pat having 17 in the game. And no one really else brought it in this game outside of those two. And then obviously Isaiah Evans and Cameron Boozer. So I was still a little bit perplexed about the change in the starting lineup. I have a feeling it's probably going to change again on Wednesday night against Cal. But yeah, I don't think you can, there's no other words to say than the idea and the change of changing the starting lineup completely backfired on Jon Scheyer.
Yeah, I mean, Malik Brown had never started a game at Duke prior to Saturday against SMU. And now I guess it's the one kind of trivia that you'd be able to say years from now, because I don't know that that's going to be a move Duke makes. Once again, I would imagine he's going to come back off the bench. Pat Ngongba should be inserted back into that starting lineup, although we've been wrong before. So we'll see if that change happens for this Duke basketball team. I thought, though, Pat Ngongba responded well, because down the stretch against Louisville, Kevin, you could make an argument he just wasn't coming back in. There were defensive questions that were there. He was in foul trouble at times against Louisville. Malik Brown, quite frankly, was better and has been better on the defensive end of the floor. But you can't ask for much more than what Duke got on Saturday out of Ngongba. I mentioned it on yesterday's show, 10 shot attempts. I've been asking for him to be more aggressive offensively. I thought Duke looked to feature him a whole lot more in that respect as well.
Well, listen, against Louisville, his head just wasn't in the game, right? You go back to the fouls in the first half, the technical foul or flagrant, whatever it was, with the headbutt and the pushing away of I think it was Pryor's head from Louisville. Like, Pat Ngongba's head just was not in the game. I don't know if the moment was too big or the emotions of the game got the better of him, but his head wasn't in it. Now, was that the reason he didn't start? Was it a benching of sorts? Was it a disciplinary action? I don't think so, but certainly could have been. But yeah, in this game, he was the Pat Ngongba who we saw for the better part of 6 weeks of the season. He was dominant down low. He made his free throws. I mean, Duke outscored SMU by 11 points with him on the floor, which was the second best on the team. Oh, by the way, the leader in plus minus in this game was the other guy that got pulled from the starting lineup, like I mentioned, in Cayden Boozer. So I think it was a really good game for Pat Ngongba. I think he should be starting on Wednesday night against Cal. It's just it was really surprising to me when Duke first announced it before the game. It was surprising as I watched the opening minutes of the game to see them get down by double digits within 3 minutes. And then there was still no clarity, at least on my end, listening to Jon Scheyer's explanation about why he did it.
All right, another, just the second game this season that Ngongba had double-digit shot attempts with those 10. He had 12 shot attempts against Army, but other than that, it has not been as large of a shot diet for Ngongba. So excited to see him featured a little bit more. And then to your point, what Duke got out of Cayden Boozer playing 34 minutes out there. Caleb Foster got the start, but he only played 15 minutes, and in some stretches just didn't look like himself. A lot of people wondering, could he have been under the weather? There were also stretches in that game where they showed him on the bench, kind of stretching out, massaging his calf and hamstring. Could there be some injury that he's trying to kind of work through there? But fortunately for Duke, they did get the boost from Mr. Cayden Boozer.
Well, the one thing I'll say to that is that he wasn't on the injury report, right?
Yeah.
I mean, even if he was dealing with a hamstring or an illness, and you're kind of basing this off of NFL injury reports, right? How players pop up with illnesses and that stuff, that he would have been on the injury report if there was any doubt that he might not play in this game, and he wasn't. So it could have been one of those things where, like, his head just wasn't in the game. Kind of what I just talked about with Pat Ngongba against Louisville, where it just was one of those nights, or in this case, one of those afternoons where things weren't going his way, and Cayden Boozer was playing much better than he was. And you're going to ride the hot hand in a game like this where it's close and you need guys who are producing out on the floor late in the game. So I think very rare. I don't think we've really seen this version of Caleb Foster this season. Kind of the version we saw a lot of at the early part of last year, where he was eventually pulled from the starting lineup and phased out of the rotation midway through the year. That was kind of the first time we've seen something like that from Caleb Foster this year. So very well, he could have been a little bit under the weather, and that's why he had a performance like he did. I think maybe this week will be telling, especially how he plays early on against Cal.
Let's take a look at the box score. Again, Duke, a 7-point victory over SMU to prove to 4-0 on the season. We'll do that when Locked On Blue Devils continues in a moment. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at Wayfair. The new year is here, and it's the perfect time to reset your routine and refresh your space. If you're spending more time at home, you might as well love how it looks and feels. That's why you should turn to Wayfair. It's a one-stop shop for getting your home back on track. From bedding and mattresses to storage solutions for every room, Wayfair makes it easy to start your year fresh. Wayfair has everything you need for a full home refresh all in one place. Whether you're updating the living room, organizing your space, or upgrading your work from home setup, Wayfair's huge selection makes it easy to find exactly what works for your style and budget. Shopping is easy, delivery is smooth, and everything arrives exactly as expected. It's honestly made getting back into a routine this new year feel a lot more manageable. Go ahead and get organized, refreshed, and back on track this new year for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Wayfair is a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. All right, we go forward on the program. Kevin Connelly hanging out with me from Ball Durham, talking about the Duke basketball win over SMU. 4 guys in double figures. Cayden Boozer and Pat Ngongba, we've highlighted their performances with 12 and 17 points respectively. Cam Boozer, 18 points on the day, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, a little bit of everything for Cam, but a relatively quiet offensive game from Duke's best player, and then yet another double-digit scoring outing for Isaiah Evans. He goes over the 20-point mark. Once again, 21 points. What do you want to highlight there from either Cam Boozer or Isaiah Evans, Kevin?
Isaiah Evans kind of feels like he's in a rhythm, right? I mean,
absolutely.
When you talk about shooters, you talk about how they can go through their funks, and I think Isaiah Evans had one of those early in the year. But right now he's in a groove, he's in a rhythm, he's really comfortable, and that's good for this Duke team because, JJ, let's be honest, and I know we'll get into it a little bit later on. In order to win games right now, they're outscoring teams because they're not getting stops. And you could see it right there in the shooting numbers for SMU. And the difference in this game was the free throw line. Duke got there 27 times and converted 21 of those opportunities, and SMU only got there 9 times. And that's the difference in a game when you let a team shoot 56% from the field and 50% from three-point range. And so the offense has been good all season for the most part. They were good in this game, shooting close to 50% and 42% from three-point range. And until they figure out this defense, which was a strength of the team in November and December, has become a weakness, if we're being honest here, over the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, Duke in this one lost the rebounding battle to SMU 30-23. Again, part of that is because SMU wasn't missing shots. So rebounds aren't exactly always there to gobble up when they go 30 of 53 overall shooting from the floor in this game. But being out rebounded by 7, you look at what Duke did in terms of fast break points as well. That was alarming. 0 fast break points for Duke. And yet, I guess a positive spin talking about some of the shot making Duke had, Kevin, they still turned it into an 82-point offensive night, not getting out and running there in transition.
Well, there's a couple of things I think to really highlight on, and statistical oddity, at least that came to my mind. So Duke forced 21 turnovers in this game, right?
Yep.
And they turned those 21 turnovers into 21 points, which, I mean, that's a fair comparison. You get a point per turnover. I know you'd like it to be higher, but all in all, that's fine. But the thing that doesn't add up is of those 21 points off turnovers and of those 21 SMU turnovers, as you mentioned, no fast break points. I mean, when have you ever seen that you don't get it like a steal from one of their guards and it just leads to an easy layup at the other end? So I thought that was just a statistical oddity. I'll be honest, I didn't go back and watch the game a second time to really dive into those numbers. But just when you look at the box score, that really stands out. Like, how is that possible that you force 21 turnovers, you have 21 points off those turnovers, but none of them came off a fast break?
Hopefully that's something that Duke certainly is paying attention to. They take advantage of opportunities to get out and run. And again, some of those turnovers, as we know, you got to take the ball out underneath, right? Some of those violations that add up there. And so you're not allowed to have a fast break opportunity. But to your point, this just doesn't happen. You don't see things like that too frequently. Again, looking at the shooting for Duke as a team, though, I love 11 makes from three-point range, better than 40% as a team. Again, 4 of them coming from Isaiah Evans, but I thought Cayden Boozer was a big boost, knocking down a pair of three-point shots. And Kevin, this is a Duke team that's got some highs and lows shooting. It's been much better when they're making those shots from the outside.
Well, yeah, obviously when you're making shots, things are a little bit better. One thing I think got to mention, Dame Sarr struggled 0 for 3 against Louisville. But if you combine his last 3 games, which is FSU, Louisville, and SMU, I think he's 5 for 13. No, actually 5 for 11. So just under 50%. So is he starting to figure some things out from 3-point range? No, he didn't play well against Georgia Tech, had the really good game, at least offensively, against Texas Tech. So again, maybe he's starting to figure some things out here as the calendar turned to the new year, which would be really good for this team. And, 11 of 26, and we already highlighted Caleb Foster just didn't look like himself, missing all 3 of his 3-point attempts. So I think all in all, again, a solid offensive performance from Duke in this game. And their offense led them to a win because they have apparently an inability to get stops, although the free throw line and, as we mentioned, the turnovers really helped them win this game.
A note for me on the Dame Sarr front, looking at what he did offensively. People on YouTube can watch and see that I'm wearing my Carolina Panthers hat today. During the second half of the season this year, the Panthers were known for the win a game, lose a game, win a game, lose a game model. Still made it into the playoffs, and what a tough outing that was, lost to any or whatever. Dame Sarr is kind of following that, Kevin, where he's got a good offensive game, a bad offensive game, a good offensive game, a bad offensive game. Back and forth it's been going.
JJ, it feels like you really wanted to get that Panther stuff off.
I needed to. Yeah, I mean, look, it was
the whatever at the end of that comparison. It felt like you're still holding in some frustration with that.
Yeah, you caught me, man. It was a good feeling to be back in the playoffs for the first time in nearly a decade. But look, it's you want to keep the thing going. I know it's not much better in your football front, though,
no.
Kev.
It's actually a lot worse, a lot worse with the New York Jets. But hey, I enjoyed the game. And if Dame Sarr, if you can get some more consistency out of him this year, I think that's going to be great for Duke. We already talked about what he did defensively against a guy like Ryan Conwell from Louisville. Now, can he continue that defense with a little bit of offense? I think that'd be really big if he can do that for Duke this year.
Now, big travel week as Duke gets ready to go out to California. A couple of big games at Cal and at Stanford. Also worth noting, the North Carolina Tar Heels are doing the exact same thing this week, Kevin. When Duke plays Cal on Wednesday night, the Tar Heels will be at Stanford, and then they'll just swap on Saturday. So both teams, I joked on yesterday's program, they should have just hopped on the same plane, save some expenses, travel out that way together.
Yeah, but both programs have enough money. How about you split a charter? You're going to the same place and you're coming home to the same place. So that would be funny. I guess the world doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't.
With those two. But no, it's interesting. And JJ, I'll just add this. I know you got to get a break in here, but as I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, no ACC team has gone 2-0 since Cal and Stanford have joined the league in a West Coast swing. Could that be broken here this week by Duke and North Carolina? Could they both find ways to go 2-0 against the Golden Bears and against the Cardinal?
It's an opportunity that's in front of Duke that they're going to want to seize and try to take advantage of moving forward. And again, it starts with the Wednesday night game, 11 p.m. Eastern tip-off against Cal. This is one of the things we talked about when they joined the league, and you want to call it the All-Coast Conference, going all over the place. But didn't really have an 11 p.m. Eastern tip-off in mind when you put teams like this in your conference, dude.
Well, just be happy that it's not 2 11 p.m. tip-offs.
Sure.
The game
Great point.
Yeah, the game against Stanford is a little bit more at a much reasonable hour out here on the East Coast. But listen, I think it's a disservice to college basketball. I think it's a disservice to ACC fans in general, obviously Duke fans. I can't imagine the league the NCAA, the television networks wants a Duke game tipping off at 11 p.m. Eastern. That's not going to get over till 1:30 in the morning East Coast time. Like, that can't be what they envisioned for this happening. And I know that the time change and that it's an 8 o'clock local tip out there in California, but even if it was a 9 p.m. Eastern game and you're starting it at 6 o'clock out there in California, that feels like it's at least a happy medium or a level playing field for everybody involved. For you have an East Coast crowd watching, because now I'll just add to this really quickly, and Duke fans aside, what do college basketball fans in general love to watch more than anything in the world? Duke losing.
Yeah.
You're not getting that crowd to
Right.
stay up to 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. And it's a road game. Cal's beaten some teams out there. It's not unfeasible to think that Duke could lose this game, but ESPN and Cal, and they're not getting that audience to stay up and watch this game if it's in doubt because it's starting at 11 p.m. Eastern on a work night. It's just not going to happen on the East Coast, which is a disservice to everybody involved in this game.
Because they're trying to get everything in there, right? Because thought it at 9 p.m. Eastern to let people know that is when North Carolina is playing Stanford. And so the thought is we're just going to be able to have 4 hours of basketball here with these teams leading into one another. But you've got a great point there. Like the general populace, outside of us Duke basketball sickos over here, we were talking yesterday, and I got people commenting down on the show. There were some people commenting on our show yesterday that were a part of the crowd that would DVR it and watch it the next day, because they just, work, reality, all the things, not going to stay up that late to see it unfold. Yeah,
you can't have and it's a reality for people who get up at 5:30 in the morning for work. They're not staying up till 1:30 in the morning to watch Duke. They'll check their phone when they get up. They'll see the score, and I'm sure when they get home from work, they'll probably have it on DVR or it'll be on YouTube, and they can go watch the game that way. But I think it's tough for everybody involved.
The haters would tell us to get a real job, Kevin, and we would say our real job is watching sports and staying up to all hours of the day to be able to talk about it after the fact. So
listen, we're in a lucky position where we do get to do this, and I'm not complaining on behalf of me. I'm complaining on behalf of the other people who do have to go out and work those blue collar, hard, tough jobs and get up at early hours in the morning. I'm complaining on behalf of them that this game is starting so late and how it's unfair to them who want to watch their favorite team on a nightly basis.
All right, well, we've got a few more news and notes that we want to highlight when Locked On Blue Devils continues here in just a moment. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. That's right, Game Time is the absolute best. There is nothing like college sports, tailgates, packed stadiums, being right there in the middle of it all. The energy, the bands, the moments you remember forever. But actually getting tickets, that part used to be frustrating with long waiting queues, logins, prices jumping at checkout. That's why Game Time gives the advantage back to fans. The easiest way to unlock amazing college football tickets and experiences in just a few taps. I opened the Game Time app and I was able to look at some upcoming games and was surprised at how fast I'm able to find great seats. The app's incredibly easy to use. I went from browsing to buying in just minutes. I love being able to see the view from my seat before buying, so I knew exactly what I was getting. Zone deals stand out. You pick the section, Game Time picks the seat, and you save even more. Take the guesswork out of buying college sports tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Game Time is a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. All right, welcome back into the program here today. JJ Jackson hanging out with my guy Kevin Connelly here on the program. And Kevin, as we get set to move forward here on the show, a little bit of a news notes for the team, specifically here to Duke. We mentioned the injury report that's now being released prior to every single ACC game. And folks have noticed there's a name on there consistently for Duke, and Iffy Ufochukwu. Jon Scheyer was able to chat on Monday about Iffy and announced officially that he did suffer a non-contact knee injury and he will miss the rest of the season. This, of course, is a player who transferred from Rice this year, has only appeared in 5 games and only appeared in the last 2 or 3 minutes of each of these games. Nonetheless, you hate seeing guys get hurt, and this is, a body that Duke doesn't have in practice. We saw Ryan Young was back in the area, and Duke actually had him come in and practice a little bit. Of course, now he's out of college eligibility. Who knows in the new landscape? Maybe we can vouch for him to get another year or so. But I thought this was kind of a notable news alert. Hadn't got a chance to talk about it on the show, so I wanted to do it here.
Yeah, listen, it's not going to impact the team on the court. I mean, if he was ever on the court in a meaningful situation, Duke would have a lot of other problems on their hands. But certainly as a practice player, is a very good tool as someone close to 7 foot. Can be like that typical scout team type player that gives you looks when you're facing teams that have some of these 7-footers. So certainly hurts the team in that capacity. And like you said, you never want to see somebody get hurt, especially with those non-contact knee injuries. I know Jon Scheyer didn't go into detail about it. But typically when you hear non-contact knee, the first thing you think of is ACL, which is close to a 11 to 12 month recovery timetable. So that's putting him at December or January of next season. So hopefully that's not the case. Again, we don't know the details of it, but just that he's not going to be able to play for the rest of the season, but more importantly, not going to be able to practice for the rest of the season, which was the biggest role for him on this team.
Yeah, get well soon, Iffy. We want to see you back in that Duke uniform soon, and maybe we'll see his impact grow on the court in the years to come and that sort of thing. So with that being said, you look at the front court now for Duke, and foul trouble hasn't been too big of an issue. I think between Cam Boozer and Patrick Ngongba and Malik Brown, there have been 2 or 3 occurrences this season where one of them have fouled out within the game, but they've been able to kind of work around and put it all together and that sort of thing. So fortunately, because those 3 have been able to stay off the injury reports and stay healthy, it hasn't been that big of a deal on the front court.
Yeah, listen, Iffy was always going to be that emergency type player. And I know some people on social media have speculated, well, now that he's out for the year, do you consider burning the red shirt of Sebastian Wilkins? No, because Iffy was never going to play in a meaningful game in meaningful minutes unless something had gone catastrophically wrong, whether with injuries or foul trouble. So like Sebastian Wilkins, there's no reason to burn his red shirt for a guy who wasn't going to play, if you get what I'm saying. So listen, Duke went into this season with this 3-man front court of Cam Boozer, Pat Ngongba, and Malik Brown. They're going to ride that out for the rest of the season. You knock on wood, something doesn't happen to any of them the rest of the way. If it does, I don't necessarily know what the adjustment would be other than playing small, but hopefully we don't have to have a conversation about that anytime soon.
And it's going to be interesting a little bit later tonight. Again, this comes out about 24 hours before the game is when you start to see these injury reports put together by the team, right? So we'll see if Cal has a lot of players on that report or Stanford going into the weekend, because for whatever reason, with Darren Peterson not going for Kansas when they played Duke, Michael Brown Jr. didn't play for the Cardinals, didn't see Boopy Miller against SMU. Duke has had a couple of things go their way with top players not playing against them.
Yeah, but you shrug your shoulders. Duke isn't doing anything to make those players not play. It's kind of just the luck of the draw.
Exactly. That'd be something if you had the superpowers to do that, man.
Yeah, like it's tough luck for those players. Sometimes you get lucky where you miss a couple of big time players in games. And other times you get unlucky where those players return and play in those games. So, it's just kind of the luck of the draw. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know how to quantify it. I mean, Boopy Miller wasn't injured. He was sick. I think he had the flu and couldn't play. So Duke has been on the beneficial side, I guess you could say, of a couple of these injury reports. Hopefully their luck doesn't turn at any time this year.
Well, Kevin, we will get to watch this game again, a late one, as Duke will take on Cal, 11 p.m. Eastern tip-off tomorrow. And Kevin, we'll have you back on the podcast this week to recap it all and talk about what Duke's doing going into the Stanford game. So really appreciate you stopping by here today. Tell us one more time about all the various ways people can support you.
Yeah, you could come read all my work about this and thoughts about this Duke basketball team over at balldurham.com. You can come listen to my thoughts on the Duke football team and on the Duke basketball team, especially now in the month of January on the Believe in Duke football podcast, which you can find on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. And JJ, looking forward to some Locked On Blue Devils after dark. I know the big thing was, Pac-12 after dark. Well, the heck with that. We're bringing Locked On Blue Devils after dark late Wednesday night.
Yep, we got to recap the game and so much more. Kevin, I'll talk to you soon, okay?
Can't wait, JJ. Talk then, brother.
There he goes. That's Kevin Connelly at Kevin Connelly24 on X. Be sure to give him a follow over there for all the great coverage he has of Duke Athletics. That'll do it for our show here today. Please be sure to subscribe to us wherever it is that you get your podcasts and on YouTube. We'll be back tomorrow with more thoughts, breaking down Duke and Cal as the Blue Devils look to improve to 5-0 in ACC play. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you tomorrow. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.